Hey there, thanks for joining me today. This is Laura Lynn with KeepInkingUp.com. I'm an independent demonstrator for Stampin' Up! In San Antonio, Texas. And today I wanted to share a design element that I tend to use quite frequently on my cards, and that is adding a layer using an embossed layer to the back of my cards. You can kind of see in this particular card example, I use the Pine Wood Planks embossing folder to add some texture to my card. I use this often because I think it does add a lot of texture and interest to my cards. So we have two different types of embossing folders to create that embossing look. We have our regular Textured Impressions Embossing folder like this basic polka dot one. And we also have our dynamic Textured Impressions Embossing folders like this tufted one. And I don't know if you can see in the video how much thicker the dynamic one is versus the regular one. The pine wood one I showed in the example here, this is a dynamic Textured Impressions Embossing folder as well. And the dynamic one just provides multiple layers of the embossing depth in the particular pattern. Now you'll find our embossing folders in our annual catalog on page 222 and 223. Those are the majority of our embossing folders that we have available. We do, however, have a couple in our current occasions catalog as well. So hopefully there is a pattern that will meet your needs for your creative projects. So I want to show you how to use these embossing folders for the, I'm going to pull in my Big Shot. And let's see if I put this, how am I going to put this so it fits in here. Let's see. To use the embossing folders, both of them, you're going to need to begin with your multi-purpose platform. And for the regular Textured Impressions Embossing folder, I'm going to put a piece of cardstock in the folder, close it. I'm going to sandwich that in between two clear cutting plates. I say clear, mine are pretty banged up, but they still work just fine for this. I'm going to sandwich that between there, put that on the multi-purpose platform, and crank that through the Big Shot. Now, if you have a different type of die cutting machine, you can most certainly use these folders as well. You'll just need to modify the sandwich accordingly. So when I pull this out, you can see all that cute little polka dots on there, and that adds a really nice texture to your projects. Now for the dynamic Textured Impressions Embossing folders, you're going to change things up just a little bit. You're still going to begin with the multi-purpose platform, but this time you're only going to need one clear cutting plate because of the additional thickness of this embossing folder. So I'm going to put my piece of cardstock in my embossing folder. I'm going to rest that on top of the multi-purpose platform and place my clear cutting plate on top of it and crank that through. Now sometimes people will spray the paper a little bit with water or maybe rubbing alcohol. And what that does is it breaks down the fibers and gives it maybe a little bit more depth. I don't find that I need to do that. I think I get a lot of dimension without doing that. Isn't that beautiful? That's just so lovely. So anyway, like I said, if you want to spritz with water, like I said, a lot of people do that, so you're more than welcome to give that a try as well if you'd like to see what's different about that. So those are our folders. Those are our types of folders that we have. I wanted to share a couple more examples with you of using these folders. This one, again, like I showed in the beginning, uses the Pine Wood Planks Embossing folder, Dynamic Textured Impressions Embossing folder. This one uses the Cable Knit Textured Impressions Embossing folder. I think that's just so cute. Isn't that a cute baby card? I love it. This one uses our Country Floral Dynamic Textures Impressions Embossing folder that is actually free at the moment during celebration for every $50 order. The foil that I used here used to be an item, but it is no longer available. But oh my goodness, isn't that just gorgeous? Think about using that with maybe some silver foil or gold foil for some of those big occasion anniversary cards. I think that would be just so pretty. I also used the Meant to Be bundle for the stamping on that. Here's another one, another dynamic folder. I think this one is called Hexagons. I thought it looked like chicken wire, so I paired it with the Home to Roost stamp set, which is another free item during celebration just until the end of March. So if you want to get that stamp set, I would hop to it so you can get it before the end of the month. Here's another one using the Country Floral Textured Impressions Embossing Folder, the dynamic one. And this one I added a little bit of ink to the folder to get even more interest to it. So isn't that pretty? Such a pretty card. And then this last one uses my favorite, I think, at the moment. It's very subdued, but it is this Subtles Dynamic Textured Impressions Embossing Folder. And it just adds so much, I think, to this card. I just love the added dimension. So anyway, that's what I wanted to share with y'all today. Is you can tell that I use it quite frequently on my projects. I use a lot of embossed layers. And I think you can also see in all of these examples, I used a full large layer on the background or as the main focal image of them as well. So anyway, I hope you found that this video helpful and that you will give embossing folders a try and add a lot of texture to your projects. Thanks again so much for joining me, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.